American heroes, that they think that there's no better way out than to take their own lives. And when even in our active military, we have many months out of the year, the biggest killed in action is not from Al-Qaeda, it's not from Taliban, it's from the hands of our own soldiers killing themselves. That should be front page news. Should be front page news. So I know how to get Republicans and Democrats to say yes. You say yes to the veteran support services. And guess what? Most veterans, 72% of all veterans, especially ones with the invisible wounds of war, they're not going to the VA. 72% of veterans will never see the VA in their lifetime. What they are going to see is whether their United Healthcare or Blue Cross or Anthem pays for the treatment that they need as employees in all of our country's major employers. So in fact, the mental health parity bill that we passed in 2008 is really a veterans bill. And I tell every corporate CEO I see today, mostly insurance executives, wait until your policy denies care for a 2 or 3 tour of duty Iraq or Afghan war veteran who tries to show up and under their mandate of mental health parity in their health plan, they get denied care. This country won't tolerate it for a nanosecond. And they'll never get over the bad publicity of turning their back on our American heroes. Because say anything you want, these are people who, like in 9/11, ran into the buildings while everyone else was running out. That's something to admire, respect. Whatever you think, you've got to admire that kind of courage that allows someone to try to save your life by putting their own life on the line. We owe them no less than at least making sure that they are treated for the signature wounds of war. That's why this year, if the super committee in Congress decides to cut NIMH funding or National Institutes for Neurological Disorders funding or National Institute for Childhood and Human Development funding, we need to know at the VA and the DoD how the research at NIH is helping to advance the understanding of the research into TBI and PTSD. Because another way of saying neuroscience is saying traumatic brain injury and post-traumatic stress. Because if you map the whole spectrum of brain-related illnesses, it goes from dementia and autism all the way down the spectrum to what are known as affective disorders, things like mind, addiction, depression, bipolar. If you want to map it all, just say TBI, PTS. Because everything that we're going to need to do to solve the challenge of our soldiers by understanding the impacts of brain trauma through traumatic brain injury or psychological trauma because of the experience of war is going to inform understanding of the brain that's going to set everybody free. So I say our soldiers are once again our freedom fighters. Because not only did they kick down the doors overseas to go after terrorism, when they come home, if we get behind them, they're going to kick down the doors of stigma and discrimination and alienation if we're behind them. And when they go into that room and they turn on the light of discovery because of their interest to save their fellows, that light of discovery is going to allow all of our family members to know the way out, to know what the light at the end of the tunnel is. So in a real sense, by winning it for them, we win it for all of us. And it brings us back to why we're here tonight. And that is, we are each other's keeper in the final analysis. And we do what we do because we would think of doing nothing less than for the people we love. And as a nation, we should love all of our people. But we should make no mistake, we owe it, first and foremost, to our soldiers. So no one can say that when the cuts start coming, that we're going to start with our veterans. It's the last place they should look to make cuts in anything. And frankly, at the end of the day, people who are families, who know about stigma, who also know about what the salvation is for family members, which is community, which is this thing called love, which is this thing called connectedness. This is also going to be the answer for the way we should respond to our American heroes when they come home. Because rather than isolating them, rather than marginalizing them, we need to bring them in even closer. Because until we come up with that magic cure, whatever it is, the best cure I've ever seen for any and all illnesses of the brain is something of the heart. It's called love, and loving the people that you care about. And what NAMI does, what all of you do, is support an organization that's about spreading the magical word that loving our loved ones who are suffering is the best way to make them have a chance of recovery. And I want to thank all of you, because you are the ones that are pioneering in an area that needs a lot of pioneers. We all need to be in this together. And frankly, when we all are in it together, we're going to win it together. And we're going to do it for our loved ones, the future of our country, and all the things that we know will make us proud. Thank you very, very much.
Very safe with us, with the New York NAMI folks, because not once did he look over his back. Because had he would see our new banner. Better together. Better together, and it is. Thank you for such a wonderful, inspirational talk. I can't help thinking about the other night my husband and I watched Camelot, the musical, on TV. And remember the last scene, they say, for one bright shining moment, tell the story, remember it. Well, this might be another event to you, but for years we're going to tell the story. The night Patrick Kennedy came, he inspired us, and he made a difference.
Like I said, I never even got to my slide presentation. But you already saw that, because every time Sharon got up here, she kept hitting the board. I'll take you through it really quickly. All we're trying to do is organize our ask. So Mike and I were in Washington. We were used to a lot of people coming and telling us this is our agenda. We need to map the agenda and organize our resources. So, instead of us playing in a proverbial sports game golf, we need to play basketball. We need to be team players. Because the way we get points on the board, again, if we're playing football, you want that analogy? There's only so many Hail Mary passes. But if we work as a team, especially if they're your New England Patriots, and you want to go to the Super Bowl, you work together to move the ball down the field. So the notion is You got to have your game plan. You need to know who your players are. You need to know what the field looks like. You need to know what the 50-yard line is. You need to know when you're in field goal range. All these are metaphors for what we need in the science world. Because if we can do this, we need to map it out. Because all I know is, I don't understand this neuroscience. All I know is it's the answer. So I want to do everything as a politician and as an advocate to help the neuroscience community do what they got to do to score the touchdown. So, one thing that we're dealing with in our time is a unique environment. And as Representative Ortiz said, you know, this is the worst of times, but it can be the best of times if we think creatively. So in danger is opportunity. We're going to need to rely on each other now. And what do we have going for us? We have an unprecedented number of tools in our toolkit. We've got the game plan. It's called the genome and understanding how we're all genetically predisposed. It's called imaging, so now instead of telescopes to look at outer space, we got the telescopes to look at inner space of our brain. And we've got the supercomputer. The irony is we came up with the supercomputer to go to outer space, but it's the supercomputer that's going to allow us to discover inner space. Because we're talking about an organ so complex that we're going to need supercomputing to be able to marry all this great science and make sense of it. Because sometimes there's more than the eye can see. And unless we put it in the computer and plug it in and look at what they call algorithms, we're not going to see where the patterns of opportunity are for our lab scientists to go and do the discovery. So we need supercomputing. We need what they call cloud computing. So we hear Microsoft, everybody's talking about cloud computing. We need a neuroscience cloud. We need all the best neuroscience in the United States. We need all the best neuroscience anywhere in the world. Because guess what? Schizophrenia, depression, bipolar, Alzheimer's, it knows no geographical boundary. It's everywhere in the world. And a lot of places in the world, they aren't as lucky as us. So as tough as we think we have it, in most places in the world, if they have one of us or one of our relatives suffering from one of these disorders, they chain you to a stake in the ground. They literally chain you to a stake. In many parts of the world, they take you to an abandoned place and they leave you there to starve. And that happens today, all over the world. So